Attention all this week has been on the one-year anniversary culminating on the 21st of September, which will be on Sunday after the siege. That's what we're focusing on as well this morning on State of the Nation. And joining me in studio is Andrew Franklin, who's a security analyst living in Kenya for 33 years now, Karibu Sana, and Philip Ogola, who is a social media consultant. Thank you both for being with us. I'll start with you, Philip. And a lot of people right now are just taking stock, remembering that particular day and also just the unfolding other 3 days. Where were you on the 21st of September last year? How do you remember the events as they unfolded?
21st September last year is still fresh in my mind like yesterday. But then I was working at Red Cross. It was a day, there was Safari 7th. I actually booked tickets to go take my wife for the rugby. Then at around noon, I actually got calls from the office that there are gunshots at Westgate Mall. So, but then I was managing Red Cross on social media. I was managing their Twitter account, their Facebook. So when I went online, I saw like 17 tweets on guys reporting on the gunshots. So what I did a situational analysis. I crowdsourced the Westgate area and picked all the tweets and quickly confirmed the situation the way it was. Then I quickly dropped everything and went to the office, and we went to Westgate. We were there with the rescue team 15 minutes after the first shootout. And what I saw there, it was something which is still etched in my mind. The situation was still fluid. When we went we went to the parking. I've never seen so many bodies in my life. It was too horrific. Seeing women die, and something which I still can't live with is seeing Ruhila die. Seeing somebody you actually know take her last breath, and it's something which still up to today my heart still is heavy. And so my role that day was to tweet about the situation and also be part of the rescue team. It was hard. At some point we had to hide under cars because of the shootout, and then we also had to carry the bodies to rescue the injured. So my role on social media was I was actually communicating with the hostages and trying to find out where they were, and then alerting the rescue team and the police to actually go inside. And it was tough to actually tweet for Red Cross. That was one of my toughest assignments, because you are tweeting amid bodies, amid the gunshots, amid blood all over, people screaming. So to me, September 21st will always be fresh in my mind, and I still get traumatized up to now.
How long were you there for?
I was there for the entire 4 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll talk more just about some of the things you've mentioned. What about you, Franklin? Where were you?
Well, I was actually in the United States. My wife and I were visiting our son in Florida, and we were watching it on television, on the internet, just like everybody else in the rest of the world.
What did you think of the whole incident as it unfolded?
Well, as it unfolded, it was horrific, obviously. You could catch flashes of people you knew. But as it unfolded, it became increasingly more confused. A lot of the confusion seemed to come from the government of Kenya. There was a lot of rushing about, and there's seemingly not a lot of control at the Westgate Mall. And as the situation unfolded, the story kept changing as to how many terrorists were actually in the mall, who was armed, who was not. The use of the term hostages, there were no hostages being held. There was not a hostage situation. There were people being killed or people escaping. In essence, there was the fog of war descended on Westgate Mall, so that by the fourth day, when the mall was blown up, it was almost it was not so much an anticlimax as what happened.
That's what happened. You're talking about having been tweeting, but on one hand communicating with those that were inside, on the other updating the status on the Red Cross's page. How are you able to do that? Because some of what we saw that was bashing that some part of the media, section of the media got, was that in tweeting with the people inside, then it was exposing them. Did you hear of that?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think most Kenyans need to be educated on in terms of such scenarios, not to be divulging their location. And I think at some point I also faulted the media for actually exposing their location. So what I was doing is actually engaging the guys inside via their inboxes.
Okay, so it wasn't on open,
yeah,
on the timeline, it was on DM.
In fact, I was actually encouraging them not to publicly state where they are.
Okay, and for you in terms of getting information, because to tell people, especially on Red Cross, it's a trusted brand. Yeah. So what you were putting out, was it of what you knew, or were you also receiving information from officers there? Because there was quite numerous conflicting information that was coming through.
Because what Red Cross did then, they set up an emergency operation center. So we had a whole team of guys there, and the information actually flowing. So it was easy for me to actually cross-verify, because I was getting information online. So whatever I got, I actually shared with the team on the ground. There are various teams actually, so it was easy to actually verify information.
Okay, I want to get into just looking at lessons that were learned and where we are now, Franklin, compared to where we were then. And also just to invite our viewers, as you watch this, you can participate, join in. Phone numbers will be scrolling on your screen. You can call in at any point. From where you sit in as far as counterterrorism strategy, has that been improved in the country? What sense do you get? And also, perhaps you can recount for us as well, where were you, what do you remember, and what do you hope going forward for Kenya in the counterterrorism strategy, or war on terror, as some would like to say. Franklin, comparing then and now, 1 year on, is there much that has changed?
Nothing has changed. Absolutely nothing. The only way to learn lessons is to have an investigation, is to see what happened, findings of fact, analyses, opinions, informed opinions, and then recommendations as to what to do going forward. In the last 1 year, we have had no inquiry that we've seen. We have no common narrative. We still have competing narratives, different stories. Still a lot of confusion as to what happened to the 4 terrorists, dead, alive, bodies taken away. The Red Cross stopped in fact, issuing reports as to how many missing people. In the aftermath of Westgate, we still really have missing people. When we say at least 67 died, 1 year later in an organized country such as Kenya, we should know how many people died. In the last 1 year, between unexplained mysterious grenade and gun attacks, Mpeketoni, Hindi, subsequent Mandera, the last year it's been a record of failure in this country. And the difference between Mpeketoni and Westgate was that in Mpeketoni there was no CCTV, that it didn't occur in the heart of the capital, in the heart of modern Kenya. So in fact, the last year we have had no lessons learned, because we don't know what the lessons are. And we seem, the heightened security at hotels, shopping malls, and the like are all about finding bombs. Getting out of your car, having the boot checked, having the bonnet.
And most of them actually it's just the bonnet.
It doesn't matter, because Westgate was a gun and grenade attack by 4 terrorists who got out of a car at lunchtime and assaulted into a shopping mall. It was not a bombing. Unfortunately, the new normal in the world we live in is that you can die in a terrorist bombing. You can die at the end of the Boston Marathon when terrorists set off bombs. This is not a school shooting like in the United States. We have reacted to school shootings as far as how we react, how the police react. Now we're looking for more bombs.
Okay, and we'll break it down each one at a time, from communication to the police and all. But just something you mentioned there on the figures that were coming out just after this, Red Cross, from the number of people missing to the deaths. At some point there appeared to be this huge number of people that were said to be missing, and then all of a sudden there was nothing being talked about the missing people. It kind of just went underground, and then there was the 67 number. Initially it was very disputed on what the death toll stood at. What was it like just being able to consolidate those numbers, and also on the missing people? Was that ever really resolved?
I think I'm not in a position to speak about the missing since I'm not an employee anymore. So, but while I was there, my experience was a bit graphic, because we had to verify each of the bodies, and it wasn't something which you can, because you had to like count each of the bodies and verify, get their physical attributes. Yeah. So to me, all the bodies were counted.
All the bodies were counted.
Yeah, we actually physically counted.
Okay. For you, what stood out other than the confusion? And which confusion? Because there's different sectors that were at play here.
Okay, to me, I'll focus on my expertise. I think social media played a very key role in the Westgate mall attack, because one, it actually helped to actually calm the country, because there was a bit of gap in terms of guys. There was a lot of speculation on what was going on. So through the Red Cross field, it was easy to actually calm the public and the country to actually calm down and let the police do their work. So another attribute of social media was it was easy to actually find missing persons. So through social media, it was there's a hashtag called Red Cross Trace, which anybody who was missing a person, they actually joined the conversation. It was easy to actually follow up on it. Another attribute was it was easy to also through social media mobilize for blood donation. To me, I think was quite. I think in Kenya history we've never received such a huge turnout of people coming in, and even guys mobilizing to bring tea for the rescue team, to bring food. So to me, I think social media played a critical role in terms of now making sense of the situation on the ground, because it was easy for me to actually get a situation analysis of the needs on the ground, who is inside, where are they, and also get like a sentiment analysis. What are people saying? Which is the favorite word? So to me, I think it's about time the government also now heavily started doing having like a digital command center to actually monitor who is saying what. And
yeah, because you said that, but it's so funny that there's so many directors, if you like, at State House that are charged with this. But look at the confusion, and let's talk about crisis communication. That didn't happen well. There was no coordinated efforts to just be able to explain to Kenyans what's happening. And even when we saw them come together and give a press statement, it was rather confused. You'd see one, chief talking and the other clarifying, this is the situation, and wonder, what is going on here?
I think the problem is that when you have nothing to say based on fact and you're in the government, you should say nothing. There was so much. So
do you get a sense they did not know themselves what was happening?
They were not inside the mall. The fact is that the police were not able to do their job. The police were interdicted by the Kenya Defense Forces, who arrived on the scene without the National Assembly prior approval to help restore security. The Kenya Defense Forces engaged in a firefight with the General Service Unit, Recce Company members, the leader of that unit was killed by the Kenya Defense Forces. That is not friendly fire. There should have been there were no command relationships that had been worked out. The Inspector General of Police conceded control over the scene to the Kenya Defense Forces, even though the Constitution, the Kenya Defense Forces Act, specifically state that the police remain in overall command. It specifically states that when the Kenya Defense Forces are used domestically, to restore security, not to fight fires, help people after earthquakes or floods, you need the National Assembly to give that a prior approval. What did occur at Westgate was that the Kenya Defense Forces assumed total control of the scene. The police were told to go away, and after getting shot, they did. And then the General Service Unit, the Recce Company, excellently trained, well led, were making their way through the mall. They were doing what they're trained to do, they're equipped to do, and they were suddenly stopped. In my opinion, the siege would have ended on Saturday night had the General Service Unit been allowed to do their thing, to do what they're trained to do and equipped to do. Instead, units that had never worked together, that is the GSU, the police, and the Army,
just brought in
came in, and they don't have commonality of equipment, of training, communications gear. They don't have the commonality of doctrine. Troops are not trained to rescue hostages. They're not trained to be a SWAT team. The KDF is well trained to engage with and kill the enemy. The enemy inside a shopping mall, when the General Service Unit are already there, wearing their helmets, in their flak jackets, carrying police-issued firearms, were not the enemy.
So was it bad to have that approach, the multi-agency approach in this? Would have one agency been sufficient?
One agency would have been sufficient, and that is the National Police Service, if it were properly, if the act were being implemented and we had a consolidated National Police Service, we do have a terrorist center, a counter-terrorist center, a command center in Hurlingham, paid for by the British. we did not have a multi-agency approach, because the implication of that term is that they're working together, that they have worked together. That is not the case. That was not the case at Westgate.
They were all just brought together. Let's go back to social media, Philip. And you mentioned how you saw it work for the good in terms of, you know, rallying Kenyans together to come out and donate blood and just participate in this, and also just flow of information. But it is also a double-edged sword in that there's also those people who are not using it for that purpose. What is the other story of how social media perhaps did not work really to help the situation?
Okay, there's a lot of hate speech going on, a lot of speculation.
Hate speech, give us an example.
When guys are just bashing the government and inciting, those insightful kind of tweets, to me, I think was a bit uncalled for, and a bit of rumors, people spreading rumors and lies that the whole building has been blown away. And so to me, those are kind of and at times it was people lying about incidents which are happening, that there's a bomb which has been blown, the people have died on.
Yeah. Did you also find interesting the peculiar habit some of Kenyans that all this while there was a problem of just controlling the masses? People just wanted to come and be there, even those who really were not looking for their relatives.
I think that's it's a Kenyan peculiar habit. I've never understood when there's an incident, Kenyans come and mill there, the crowd there, and they don't want to go. I think that's something which it's very dangerous. I think Kenyans should actually be told in terms of disaster, they should avoid such places. And during the rescue operation, it was quite hard for the agencies who are responding to actually navigate through because of the crowd.
Yeah, because I remember I was there, and at one point they had to fire tear gas canisters to just get the crowds to disperse. But one of the story we just watched, Asha was trying to look at what has happened since, from Nyumba Kumi, surveillance equipment, but which has really flopped pretty much in as far as whether it's working, whether we are seeing those cameras and in action and helping to actually curb crime. Police recruitment, again, that's a whole now court process. Then there's the element of killing of Godane, who was the Al-Shabaab chief. What for you events to now, any of this are significant in changing Kenya's strategy and tack in fighting this crime?
I think the way you've posed the question reveals the confusion in the country and the lack of movement. We don't have 10,000 new police, and even if we had recruited 10,000 new police, how soon would they be in the field? 12 months, 18 months on? Surveillance equipment, or if we're talking about the Safaricom integrated surveillance 15 billion shilling project, which is to roll out in Nairobi and then Mombasa, but not in Mandera, Wajir, Garissa, not anywhere along the border with Somalia, which remains absolutely open, certainly not in Lamu County. But we have no cameras, in essence. We have no integrated surveillance system. We have no coordination within the police, as I think one of your stories on yesterday Morning Express, between the APs and the regular police in Kisumu, where the Inspector General is asking his police to work together as comrades. That's what the law says now. The law prior to 2011 did not say that. They had separate police units in different ministries. In 3 years, we have not implemented the National Police Service Act, so we have one police service. What we've seen in the last year is increased use of the Kenya Defense Forces on highways. Notion on highways, gazetted to support the police in places like Mandera, but then extended to the Mombasa-Nairobi highway, up and down the coast. The KDF, after Mpeketoni, were brought into Lamu County officially and are running operations. Lamu County is still under curfew. And yet we don't see any Al-Shabaab bodies. We don't see dead terrorists. We don't see dead insurgents from
You've seen a dead leader, Godane?
Well, actually, Godane and 5 other senior Al-Shabaab officials were killed in U.S. airstrikes, mainly to support the AMISOM, or AU, Operation Indian Ocean Offensive, which
Isn't that
ongoing.
a step in the right direction?
No, actually it's not, because any plans that were made by Al-Shabaab to commemorate, to have fireworks, if you will, on the first anniversary of Westgate were already afoot. those plans were not just extemporaneous. Any planning for terrorist activity is ongoing. It's afoot. The death of the leader, the very top, who was replaced very quickly by another hardliner, and I think they're all hardliners at Al-Shabaab with different perspectives, indicates that any plans that were afoot and in process.
But isn't it possible by their quick replacement of Godanes to just simply, push away or put aside the perspective or indication that we are not in control, everything's not okay in the house, that, yeah, we've got it back together really
well, that's what any good military organization does.
Yeah.
You don't have a vacuum, a power vacuum. Power vacuum also includes many people talking at cross purposes, all of whom are representing the a government or a movement. The interesting thing about Al-Shabaab and other fundamentalist and jihadi movements is they tend to have one philosophy, one perspective, one spokesman.
Yeah. Philip, you talked about some of the things that Kenyans were saying on social media, especially in as far as bashing the government. But wouldn't you say it was in place in as far as how the whole process was being conducted? Was it out of order, really?
Okay, to me, I'm looking at it in two ways. One, I think as Kenyans, we also have a role to play to actually complement the government. I don't think we wholesomely blame the government. I think it's me and you also need to know, how can we use social media for good? How do we know your neighbor? Because to me, I'm looking at social media is not being used as a tool, as a reporting tool. Social media can actually be used like an emergency reporting management. If the Nyumba Kumi doesn't work, it can actually work online very, very well. Like the way it works at Kenya Red Cross, where Kenyans actually report incidents and it's quickly responded to. Yeah. So to me, I'm looking at it from a security angle. Kenyans can actually be reporting incidents to the police. If I am suspecting you to be a terrorist, I can actually discreetly report to you. So to me, I'm looking at it, how can we help complement the government in terms of now being an eye on the ground. And in terms the government...
But when there are such blatant failures, shouldn't people talk about that? They should.
No, they should, but to me, I'm looking at it not wholesomely blaming them, but what are you doing?
What are you doing? Let's take some calls. We have Moffat who's calling us from Kisumu. Moffat, good morning. Moffat?
Yes.
Hi.
I'm doing good.
Go ahead with your contribution.
My contribution is this. A place like Westgate, witness like the other time, it really embarrassed me. Because I would expect a place like Westgate around 10 meters away from Westgate. We would expect something like a roadblock and some good sensors. At the gate itself, I would expect 10 good men, well armed. But you can understand something, a place like Westgate, we had mere security agencies with nothing at hand. Really, it was shocking. It was embarrassing. I don't know what really happened. A place like Westgate, I would expect a very good security. But I don't know what the government has done up to now. Because recently I traveled to Nairobi. I traveled in the bus, but there was no any checking. We just entered in the vehicle. When I left Nairobi back to Kisumu, there was no any checking. Which it means up to now, the government itself, there's nothing they have taken. There's nothing they have taken at control. The thing is still the same. Something is going to happen very soon. And they now began saying that, oh, now we have to do like this and do like this. They start and forget about it. So the government has actually to act on this. It's really much shaming. We thank you.
Is your concern there's not been any change, any lessons learned, any growth or progress?
Nothing. I was even in Machakos recently. There was nothing. I'm telling you, if Al-Shabaab comes again, the same thing it will happen. I stay in Kisumu, but I traveled in top bus. But there was nothing. We just entered in the vehicle. Everybody's coming in with some big bags. They're just putting bags in then there was no any checking. We just left Kisumu. I don't know. Things still the same. I'm telling you the reality. The thing's still the same. I'm afraid if Al-Shabaab now organize another attack, they will do anything. They can do anything. There is no any changes have been taken control.
Thank you, Moffat. Thank you for your contribution. We also have James Mutu online. James, good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Yes, let me say this.
Yes.
First, the insecurity that we experience, I keep on hearing Kenyans blaming the government. for its ineptitude. But let me say this, and the problems that we have in Kenya today is a reflection of the Kenyan society. We are irredeemably corrupt. We go blaming everybody else except ourselves. Look at what we say, that the police are the ones who are corrupt. They allow these guys to come on our borders, I don't know where. Look at the police recruitment. The police are blamed on being corrupt. But it takes two to tango. Who did the police give? Do police give vibes amongst themselves? No, we give them vibes. So when we say the police are corrupt and we exonerate ourselves, it means that we're not going to solve this. What if we refuse to offer these bribes? So I'm telling Kenyans to stop.
Run after Westgate, do you think things have changed or they're just pretty much the same?
Yeah, things have really changed.
For the good or for the worse?
For the better now. If you look at, especially after the bombings that we had around Thika on these buses to Mwiki and Githurai and then Gikomba, and then the operations in Syria, we haven't seen these bombs being bombed right, left, and center. And I think we have seen people talking about radicalization as if they're the only ones who have historical injustice. Historical injustice is everywhere. Nyanza, Western, it is not a hereditary characteristic of coast or northeastern. So people should stop blaming others for these problems. Unemployment is everywhere. Low standards of education are everywhere. So let us all join hands to build this country for the better. We must also stop saying that we have been marginalized for too long. And when we have this constitution whereby now resources are trickling to each and every part of this country, I think we need to take this chance to develop ourselves. For how long are you going to sing about historical injustices? Yet we are seeing them being resolved now. So do those politicians who come from these places want to continue holding on to that 50 years to come when now the RAD issues are being resolved? And they are telling the youth, we have been marginalized. So the youth will now carry on to that, and they have this attitude of entitlement, as if other Kenyans don't have problems and haven't joined radicalization. Secondly, look at the issue of there are terrorists whom we see being gunned daily in Mombasa or somewhere else. Where do we see people, even their mothers and the religious leaders, coming out to say, these are innocent people, I don't know how many dads have been killed in Nairobi. Why don't we see Christians coming out to say?
Okay, thank you, James. We'll cut you short there. You've made your point. Thank you very much for watching and your contribution as well this morning. Keep your calls coming. This is the State of the Nation today. We are focusing on after the siege, 1 year after that Westgate attack. What are the lessons learned? What do we remember? What is the state of the nation as we stand now? One of the other things I remember, Philip, was that several agencies all wanted to be tweeting and talking about this. And at some point, there was conflicting information. As a consultant in social media, in as far as when it comes to crisis communication and, every other agency wanting to come in and inform, what would have been the best approach? And what are the lessons that the digital parts of government and perhaps police can learn from this?
I think one, there was a gap in terms of now, the trusted source of information, because there are very conflicting various arms, be it the government, the police, and so now guys are actually now focusing on Red Cross in terms of now, but the Red Cross can only tweet in terms of now their mandate. But I'm talking about when it comes to security issues, the government issues, there's a bit of now, we didn't know who to. So to me, I'm looking at the government need to have like a contingency plan. In case of a crisis, there need to be one source of communication. And they need to have like a hierarchy, who is saying what is supposed to be said. And I think that's now where the speculation actually came in, because there was a gap on who is supposed to be saying what. And to me, that was, I think, one of the main failures of the...
One of the failures at that time.